statement
Some of
was.
those issues were like
Mhm.
abortion issues, some of the really heavy issues that on here.
Sure. And one of the things that Mr. Delmaro was saying was we cannot even calculate the level of risk currently at play. And
Mm.
this is in the air traffic system. And he also goes on to say, nor can we predict the point at which the entire system will break.
Wow.
Now, come on. At what point that's really scary that, you know, and then I heard one of the relatives saying, guys, just kind of hang in there. We know, when you see that kind of privilege being so condescending as to just think that you'll be okay, just kind of turn on some Netflix and ride this thing out like you're in a snowstorm is ridiculous. And so I guess I'm going to go back to the caller. Caller, in terms of that type of attitude when you're seeing that on MSNBC, CNN, Fox, and all the other networks, what does that do in terms of your morale and the morale of your coworkers?
Oh, it's not very good for any of us, because it feels like you dedicate your work to public service, and you are held to the standard of public service because your public taxpayers are what pays your salary. So you hold that in very high regard, and you think, okay, let me make sure I do a good job. Let me make sure I don't take bribes. Let me make sure I'm honest. Let me make sure my finances are in order, my credit is in order. And then here, the president and all the people in the White House don't have the same standards. It's like, how do you talk out of both sides of your neck? How do you ask
Wow.
the federal employees to be held to this standard, but you can't be held to this standard? And you feel like you can just throw out any kind of random BS and think that people are going to buy into that. And that's wrong. I think, if anything, the president needs to be held at an even higher standard than the federal employees.
I agree.
And this one's not.
I mean, one of
So,
ooh, go ahead.
no, it just seems so like something's gotten lost in the weeds. Like, this president doesn't know how how different branches of the government are supposed to work, and he definitely doesn't understand how federal agencies operate, much less how those services impact the public.
But
And that's very scary.
I mean, but you have to look at the situation. I mean, of course, you know the situation. I'm talking to everybody listening. I just think, like I said last show, it's crazy because as these elections were initially going on, my dad always tells me, before I date somebody, don't ignore the signs. When these elections were going on, everybody was so hype over the fact that this was a candidate that because he had no idea about politics, he would bring some sort of freshness into his position. And now look at where we are. Somebody who doesn't even understand how the system works cannot be expected to protect the system. And it's just funny to me. The biggest contradiction to me is how all of this is in the name of quote unquote safety. This wall is in the name of safety, when right now the FBI can't even get into for example, the Joint Terrorism Task Force of the FBI can't even get into its computer systems right now. There are agents who have been going for months and months and months targeting different domestic terrorist groups, different individuals in this country. They can't even issue subpoenas. So initially, there are people in the country right now who have been doing illegal activity. They probably know, the federal government is on to them, et cetera, and they initially have had 30 days to get their act together, to cover whatever they need covered up and all this kind of stuff. So I just think that it's amazing how all of this is supposed to be done for the quote unquote safety of us when things are literally not safe at all right now because of this shutdown.
Yeah, and one of the things that I guess you have thousands of very dedicated employees like our caller who are going every day in spite of not being paid, and they're making sure that things are getting done, which is in itself is just amazing, and it just says a lot about them. But you can't ignore when you have all these concerns of callers, especially when you're talking about some of the other ancillary costs. I mean, the safety things that Ambezi just laid out, along with the costs of starting contracts and terminating contracts and all those other millions and billions of dollars when you look at all the agencies. I mean, if you just look at the contractors who work for the Coast Guard, FBI, IRS, TSA, that's billions of dollars right there.
Sheesh.
So I'm sure we haven't even talked about the millions and billions of dollars that's going to cost us, let alone the monies that are being paid in overtime pay and all the other contractual things people are entitled to that they didn't receive, and then the impact of the mom and pop stores that are around TSA and the Coast Guard headquarters and the other places where people are saying, hey, I'm not paying any, I can't afford a sandwich, I'm not going to the movies, I'm not booking a cruise to wherever this year. So
we're talking about sandwiches, our food.
Right.
The people who are supposed to be checking and regulating our food.
So the costs are just incredible. And I guess, Felicia, when you think about all these things, when you look at what our caller was saying, just in terms of the way they were told to do things, how they're getting information, that makes it difficult to sort of do things like, let me think about another career. Now that we're in sort of a crisis mode,
right,
it's a little different, I guess. So is there a difference in the way you are instructing folks pre-crisis and during the crisis?
Yeah, actually, the way I do things is different because now I'm in extreme hurry mode, get this up and running as quickly as possible. Because I feel the pain, like with the information that's come out, like the letters that have been sent out, because my husband got that letter and he was ticked off. He's like, this is such a slap in the face. So now with everything that's going on, like I feel a little panicked to like hustle and take care of my family, as well as hustle to and show other people how to freelance for themselves, because I know it's like with each passing day, more and more bills are due. People need to buy groceries and they need to do, carry on life. So like within the trainings, I'm like, okay, this is how you put this together. Go put it out there. Here's a couple of job postings. Go out there and get them. If you need help with the job posting, whatever it is, if I can help you, I will help you figure out how to do it. And then you can go out and do it and get paid for it. So I do feel the hustle, like I feel the anxiety over here on both fronts, home front, as well as like helping as much as I can, as quickly as I can. But I just wish people were more focused on solutions, and I mean that in Washington, like why aren't we more focused on like solutions? Like let's get this going. We're all adults here. Let's end this. So that's what I'm doing on my end, but I definitely feel anxiety.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just wonder if there's any way that folks are preparing, and again, Felicia, as you mentioned too, like the folks in DC, are they preparing for not so much when the folks get back to work, whenever that is, but the kind of aftershock stuff, the things that they aren't aware of. Do they have someone kind of looking into what's it going to look like when folks are coming in and they've got issues that they've got to deal with because they've missed mortgage payments or because they've missed car payments, what they're going to do, what are they going to do with I'm just thinking of all kinds of crazy things, again, not just the workers themselves, but all of those uh, businesses that the workers support. For instance, daycare. You know, if those places are around federal agencies, they're daycare places that are like probably completely dependent upon federal workers coming to work and leaving their kids. So, but what happens then? What happens? You know, I don't think they understand the depth of the fallout yet, and I just hope they have somebody looking at it. And of course, this is an unprecedented situation, but it certainly has the makings of a great travesty beyond just the initial issue. But kind of like, you know, earthquakes. The earthquakes are bad, but the aftershocks are bad as well.
Yeah.
So, do you, caller? With that being said, is the atmosphere at work? Are people really doing work? And I don't mean that to be insulting, or are people sort of using work as a chance to sort of do some I guess some self-healing and helping each other to cope with all this stuff?
Well, you know, the bad thing is when the government shut down on the 29th, that was it. We didn't see each other. We couldn't even go into the office.
Wow.
We couldn't even go in and get our things. And it was like, you know, get your computer and get out. So I just know that I've been in contact with some of my counterparts, and everybody is feeling just completely unnerved about everything that's going on.
So you weren't allowed to. I'm sorry, you weren't allowed to go back in the building to get your things?
Well, I mean, the most you could get was your computer monitor and your laptop and stuff, and that was it. I mean, you couldn't take home any files, you couldn't have any paperwork, nothing like that. So you could get your computer, so you could go home and notify your contractors electronically, not to go to the site anymore.
So on top of being furloughed, you were also taking work home to do and still not being paid. So you were getting a double whammy, if you will. You were not allowed to do certain things at work, but you were expected to go home and make notifications.
Yeah. And right now, my boss has made it very clear to me, don't check any email, don't check any voicemail. You put an out-of-office memo on your voicemail saying the federal government is shut down. I'll respond to your call when the government reopens. And that was on voicemail and email.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the scope of work that you're supposed to be performing while you're under furlough? Just so that we can sort of clarify that for our listeners.
Absolutely nothing. So I have my private cell phone number that I give to my contractors because I mostly telework. I work from home most of the time. So when my emails go out to contractors, they see my office number and my cell phone number. So as I said before, they have my cell phone number and they were calling me saying, "Oh, are you still having the site visit today?" Well, no, the government is shut down. So my boss made it clear, don't call any contractors, don't check any email, don't respond to any emails. So I've just been kind of peeking around to see, you know, if I am getting any emails and what those emails are about. And most of it is contractors still wanting to know, are you still doing this project? Is it still going to happen? Or have you already issued a contract to somebody else? And if it's that kind of stuff, then I can't respond to it. I don't respond to it. But now if they call me on my cell phone, I can't tell if it's a contractor or if it's somebody else. So when I answer and they tell me who they are, and they're like, "Oh, are you still having the site visit?" No, federal government is shut down. I'll respond and let you know. well, what, and then they want to ask me 10,000 other questions.